Are you kidding me? You mean we're going to have more coronaviruses?
Well, it may not be the coronavirus, but it may be some other variation of it. But we will be a part. Pathogens, first of all, they are us.
Okay, so we're the host
Mhm.
carrying the pathogen.
Mhm.
What will happen over the next 100 years as we become more intertwined, more global
Great
travel,
question. I love it.
and more connected?
I love it. So now what you said is you're asking, since we now know that pathogens will be traveling, epidemics are inevitable, okay? But pandemics are not.
I'm Linda Dunn, CEO of Odyssey Media. I can't tell you how excited we are to present our summer digital series, Real Talk. Real Talk kicks off with an exciting presentation by Dr. Nat Irving, one of the world's foremost futurists, especially on pandemics and epidemics. But our series this summer also includes some fun presentations, some skills transfer, and some folk you'll definitely want to hear from. So join us for Real Talk, presented by Odyssey Media.
Hi, I'm Nat Irvin, and I'm a professor of management at the University of Louisville, where I also serve as assistant dean for thought leadership and civic engagement.
Welcome back, Nat. We're going to talk about workplace surveillance. Some people call it time theft, and joy cometh in the morning. Like, we're both from the church, so let's be optimistic about the next 100 years and what it's going to present. This is what I worry about. All of my people are working from home. The mind wanders, correct? How will an employer like me be able to monitor telework?
Well, monitoring telework. Well, there are ways you can do it, of course. You can do it from a technological standpoint. That is, you can just build in, which you see some companies already doing this now. They have an app that basically just monitors the movement of the person who is supposed to be working for them. Because I think what fundamentally your question raises is the element of trust. And people really want to be trusted. People do their best when they are trusted. People do not do so well when you're monitoring everything that they're doing. And so I'd say that if you look for the successful companies, if you look for successful organizations, the element that makes that you can start off with is, can you trust the people you're working with? And do the people that I'm working with in my team, can I trust them? Can I trust them to do things when I am not looking at them? Minds work many different kinds of ways. In fact, one of the great things that we're understanding about the brain is how it is the idea of being able to wander, to WANDER, leads to greater wonder, greater creativity. So I'd say that the surveillance that the employer and employee, that's being negotiated right now. What we have right now is not what I think we will have in the future. And what it does illustrate, however, is the notion of whether or not you want to have a relationship that's purely transactional, or do you want to have that's one that's more transformational. I say the next generation is going to be looking for more transformational work, looking for something that brings meaning. That doesn't mean being surveilled, that kind of a thing.
Okay. So another question about telework is, a lot of our young people, the company is their family, right? What over the next 100 years, as we telework, as more viruses happen, as we shut down, how does that affect the psyche of some of the young people that are connected to us?
Fundamentally, we're social beings. And I think a lot of the excitement right now about telework is really, I just think it's a little bit overplayed. I'm not suggesting to you that there is not a dynamic that is underway where we start to find out that there's some work that can be done not being a part of the central hub. No doubt about that. That's a given. All this pandemic does is it accelerates that which was already underway. And then the second thing that happens out of that is, once you discover that, you find that people have skills that you didn't know that they had. They have capacities that you didn't know that they had. You have technologies that you didn't know that could be used in new ways that that was not being used before. All to the good. But really, underneath your question though is the social being, the aspect of being in the proximity. I don't think there's any way that you're going to replace what would be the analog version of being on a golf course with people making decisions, or wherever those decisions are being made that are off the screen, that are off the surveillance, that are made when people are together. That's fundamentally how we are as human beings. Remember, as a tribe, meaning 150 people, that's the way we kind of operate. You have your own group of people that you trust. I have my group of people that I trust. We find people that we can trust. We go to them for advice. We go to them to help us make decisions. When you're leading an organization, you want people that you trust. But the signals that you get from trying to determine whether you're going to do this or you're going to do that, we can get some of that through this technology that we're experiencing right now. But it's not like the same thing. I don't think I would say that having dinner with you versus being able to talk over this device that we're doing now, I don't think this is better. I think this is good, but it's better when you and I can sit down and talk and look at each other and laugh and be able to pick up all the signals that have been gifted to us from evolution. We're not replacing that.
Definitely. I see us sitting around a fire pit. I see us as we have evolved sitting on porches and waving. And I see us as humanity being able to connect. I mean, I admit Zoom and these platforms have solved some of the issues, but a Zoom baby shower? Are you kidding me? A Zoom wedding?
What about the people have actually, doctors have told the patient that they were going to die by Zoom, or that a family learns out that a patient or a member of their family has died by Zoom. That's not. We don't want that, right? We do not want that. This is temporary. I don't think. I mean, I'd be very shocked. Of course, we've already seen, and this is where I could be. I mean, absolutely wrong. You look in the judicial system where a judge has rendered a judgment that says, 50 years, you find out by Zoom, or the jury verdict is delivered by Zoom. I don't think we want that really. And so because we can do something doesn't mean that we're going to, by the way. Right.
I hear you. Okay, let's be optimistic and let's talk about the next 100 years and traditions. What traditions will change?
All right, an easy one. Handshakes. That one might be gone. That one might be gone because of the ramifications for the passing of viruses. And it may be that will transmit, we will go to something like this, or we may go what's called the Wuhan wave. Handshakes may be out. Fauci says that. And, but maybe there'll be something else. I hope one thing that we do not lose, and I don't think that Black folks will lose, is this: the nod. Okay, the nod. I think the nod's going to still be here. Thank God. That's one thing I've been worried about. Lord, please don't let us lose the nod, because you need that, and you need this too, right here, right.
Hugs.
Huh? What was that? Hugs?
Yeah.
They could be in some trouble, But let's do this. You hug, you probably be able to hug, but see, here's the thing. Maybe you'll have to have that little bracelet on that says "safe to hug," the wearable that lets you know that you can do it, right? That, in other words, the pods. You'll be able to hug anybody in your social pod that has been tested. That's all you want to do is eliminate. Remember, all this has to do with is, can you eliminate uncertainty? To the extent that you can minimize risk, you'll do the same things that we've done. Right now, it looks like this virus has got us really significantly, and it does. That's because we don't know yet what it's doing. And it is doing things to us. We haven't yet figured out how to adjust to it. But as soon as we get data and we start to figure out how it is manifesting itself, then we will make adjustments and it'll change our behavior, but hopefully it will not change our behavior. I can't imagine that we won't be able to hug each other.
So, Doc, I have a really good question for you. So, in London, England, in the UK, they have passed a law that says you cannot have intimate relations with someone that is not your spouse or that you are not living with as a partner. What do you think of that?
People are not going to do that. Are you kidding me?
Oh my God, that's quarantine extreme.
People never do that.
Yeah.
In fact, what people do is they go through an epidemic and then they go back basically to where they came from the first time. They build some structure. They will maybe improve the water system. They will sanitation. They'll learn how to do things. But fundamentally, saying not having sex, not hugging each other, not loving each other, no. That has never happened in human history.
You know, Doc,
Yeah.
I just want to throw you a hardball.
Go
And
ahead.
you answer that question so well, like folk ain't gonna do it. That's all to it. Right? So that's what I really appreciate. So as we wrap this up, you talk about Sister Mary shouting in the church.
Yeah.
Who's gonna come up to her and fan her? Who is going to keep her calm? Who's going to let you just shout and lay all over her? No one, right? I mean, seriously, over the next 100 years, we will see traditions. We will see some of that stuff go away.
Yeah.
You talk about the fact that 50% of small Black churches won't be here because people, that generation that keeps the church going with tithes, they're not used to using PayPal.
Well, Linda, you touching on something that's very important to both of us and certainly many members of this audience, and that is what happens to the future of the church. Well, the future of the church in times of like a pandemic has a really great opportunity. So the challenge for the Black church right now is how does it respond during this pandemic now? The percentage of people who are attending Black churches is heavily geared toward over the age of 50, 55. But demographically, Black churches are in a significant and perilous position because of what the birth rate is. The birth rate within the Black community is not shooting up. It is leveling off and will level down as in other populations as well. But I expect that the Black church will come out of this fewer Black churches. You're going to find that the services will have to be different. The tradition that I experienced, which is when sisters would get happy and shout, it's probably going to change, and it'll change probably impacted by this pandemic. Doesn't mean that it won't happen in the future, but probably, and I'm just using that as an example of traditions that we've had, they will undergo some changes. The fact that people used to wear gloves in the past, they will maybe wear gloves in the future. The fact that people will go to church and have on their mask, that'll change the way that people respond to pastors. The length of services, probably shorter. The greater use of technology. Yes, then you pick up other kinds of new members. The role that the church will have in the community. Will you be able to volunteer? Will you be able to provide services? And then there's this other thing. Once you go into an example of a period like this, people start to have a lot more sophistication about the use of data, measuring things, understanding things. To the extent that the Black church can wade into that, continue to provide services, real meaningful services, as did the Black people in 1796 when the yellow fever hit Philadelphia. 3/4 of the people that volunteered were Black people. African Americans from the African American Free Society were the ones who did the burial, who did the volunteer, who did all of the tending to the sick, who took care of the children. That's our tradition. That has been the way that the Black church has been able to sustain itself through yellow fever, through smallpox, through tuberculosis. This is not the first time we've had to deal with epidemics.
So, Nat, we're both from the South and we're both from Baptist churches. And one of the things being raised in the church in the South, we sing and talk about a lot is joy cometh in the morning. And so what are some of the things that we will be joyous about over the next 100 years?
Let me go specifically to one area that really brings me a lot of joy. And that has to do with the demographic shifts that are underway around the world, and in particular within America. America is in the midst of a demographic social hurricane where in the year 2024, 2028, 2032, 2036, all the way through 2050, you're going to gradually start to feel the influence of our ancestors. You're going to gradually feel the influence that the church has had in preparing leadership. So that will be one way to think about the relationship of the church in the future. But fundamentally, here's where we can be hopeful. Think about the change that is underway right now as a result of what has happened socially. And right now, obviously, we're talking about the issues with police in America. If you look at the response globally, something is happening globally that has never happened before. And it is as a result of combining an angst that people have felt with the ability to be able to share it globally through this very small technology, otherwise called a cell phone. When you go forward, if you can think about the numbers of young people who will have platforms that they previously did not have, publishing platforms, ability to be able to tell their stories, to be able to write their stories, to be able to make sure that their voices are heard, and then from a demographic standpoint, to be able to ascend mathematically into places where previously they were excluded, not necessarily because people want them, but because mathematically they have to be there. My optimism comes from young people. I teach MBA students all the time. I work with young high school students all the time, and I know what they're thinking about. And I know that they're very smart, and I know that they're going to have new tools, whereas they could have been locked out in the past. They're not going to be locked out in the future.
Well, we're going to end on that note. That was excellent. I just wanted to listen to you, and I want to thank you for talking to us about the next 100 years. I'm so happy that we ended on an optimistic view, and I really want to thank you for sharing why you built a career around the history of pandemics and managing in the future. I want to thank you for always speaking Black MBA, ELC, Odyssey, spreading the word, right? But I really want to thank you for engaging with some of my really way out questions that I have. And why it's really important that we start this conversation now. We must be prepared for the next pandemic, epidemic, and especially in our neighborhoods. So thank you so much, Dr. Nat, and I'll talk with you in the future.
See you in the future, Linda.
All right, the next 100 years.
Absolutely.